Hello guys, welcome back to my YouTube channel. Welcome back to another episode of the NUFC Monday Show. We've got plenty of stuff to get into later, but first of all, another little bit of housekeeping. I really want to thank everybody for their support on last week's video. Really happy with over 1,000 views, 40 likes as well. I'd ask you to give the video a thumbs up if you liked it, because it really helps with the algorithm and really pushing the channel, and that's what I'm really happy with. I also said I really wanted to get over 300 subscribers by the time the season starts. And as I sit here, I'm on 306 a week later. I'm really pleased with the support on the channel. Thank you so much again. And as I say, please do continue to like, share, and subscribe if this is the sort of thing you like, because it really helps my channel grow and really helps me get out there a little bit more and bring you more content as well. I really enjoy doing that. Thank you very much, as I say, for the support. Straight in with the video though, and we've got plenty to talk about, as I say, starting with the news of James Trafford and Newcastle's, first of all, making a bid of around £15 million, and Fabrizio Romano over the last couple of days reporting that that personal terms have been agreed. Now, in the past, I've mentioned Georgi Mamardashvili, and Newcastle have held talks with Valencia over a deal, but at the moment it looks a little bit too expensive at around £35 million is the asking price pre-Euros. Newcastle not too keen on that at the moment. They've plumped for a move for James Trafford, 21-year-old Burnley goalkeeper, under-21s England goalkeeper, hero of the England under-21s last summer when they won the Euros. Obviously, everyone here knows about Anthony Gordon's performance in that, but he saved a penalty in the final and really helped England get on the way to that success. Had a difficult season at Burnley, and it's split opinion, this one, really, among the fans. I think a lot of fans say you can understand to a degree why. Is he ready to replace Nick Pope as number one? No, probably not. Mamardashvili certainly would be, and I think that would be a sort of real statement of intent, and it maybe represents a little bit more future planning, which is something that Newcastle did last summer with Tino Livramento and Lewis Hall, and that subsequently became part of the problem for Newcastle during the season. There was a lot of criticism their planning and how much planning they did for the current team rather than the future, and that sort of thing, with their recruitment getting a lot of criticism. But I think what plays into the hands as well here is Tosin Adarabioyo's move to Chelsea. That has really made people inside the club rethink about what has to happen in terms of a centre back now. There was a hope that Newcastle would be able to secure a deal for a player who would be worth around 20-25 million pounds on the current market for free in Adarabioyo. There was a real hope that that profile of player that I mentioned in countless videos before would have really suited Newcastle, fit in perfectly on a free transfer, not really gone too deep in the PSR situation. And now they have to allocate a sizable amount of the upcoming transfer funds to replacing that missing deal now, and finding money to buy a new centre back, which will probably cost 35-40 million pounds. So going out and spending that on Mamardashvili is very difficult to do when you've got a right midfielder to think about as well, as mentioned before. So Trafford does make a lot of sense. I think it's one that should move quite quickly once they get past Burnley. Burnley seem to be after 20 million, which is around what they paid Manchester City last season. Newcastle really pushed for it. I'm sure it'll get done sooner rather than later. This is really indicative of what Newcastle now face. Now the Tosin deal is out the window, and that domino effect that really goes on from there. And it wasn't just an opportunistic move; it became a really valued part of their recruitment process to get a player like that in for free. And the domino effect, as I say, of that could be lasting, especially now they're not able to go and get their first choice goalkeeper, which was Mamardashvili, as far as I was aware. I can't comment on reports of Trafford's provisional agreement with Newcastle, but if that is the case, then as I say, I imagine this deal will be done pretty quickly down the line. So I think, let me know in the comments if you think it's a good deal. I think it's understandable given where Newcastle are, the reality of their summer, the battle against PSR, and the sort of background conversations about the likes of Bruno Guimaraes and Isak, who we will get into a little bit later. But yeah, James Trafford, the deal is moving forward. Newcastle have made a bid. Newcastle have probably going to get that bid rejected, but they will go back and get a deal sorted. It isn't too much in terms of the difference in price. I'm sure it'll get sorted, and Trafford could be in pretty soon after that, you would imagine. Next up, we have Yankuba Minteh, and his name is back in the headline. I said on this channel a couple of weeks ago, if you go back to, I think it was the very first Monday show, that Yankuba Minteh might be sold this summer, and it's come out in the Telegraph from Luke Edwards and subsequently Sky Sports News' Keith Downey have said this as well, that Newcastle are looking at options to cash in on Minteh. Interest is high. There's lots of clubs in Europe and apparently Liverpool who have been taken over by Arne Slot, the former Feyenoord manager, obviously worked with Minteh on loan in the Eredivisie last season. He scored 11 goals and got 5 assists in both the Champions League and the Eredivisie last season. So very, very impressive stats. 19 years old, fantastically talented player. But 40 million is the apparent asking price for him. And if Newcastle get an offer of that or upward of that, then they will have to consider that sale for PSR reasons. As I say, it all comes down to that, and I know people are tired of it, but Newcastle do still have to get creative, and this is one of those ways that they can cash in on a player who's got incredibly high value, incredibly high potential, and there is obviously a risk of selling somebody like that. Eddie Howe does still want to have a look at him in pre-season before any decisions made, but Newcastle are aware of the asset they have in their hands and the possibility of his value exponentially growing faster than they expected. He came in for 7 million. This is over 5 times his value that Newcastle paid for him last summer. So they have to consider that. I think that's just the reality of the situation. An offer of 40 million comes in that really almost solves the issue there and then, without having to dip into the market and sell any other major assets who will also leave as well. I'm sure the likes of Miguel Almiron, Martin Dubravka, Sean Longstaff's been linked with a move to Leicester this week. Those players are sort of on the table as well. None of them represent the value that Minteh may well do, so they have to be open to this. I said this a couple of weeks ago. Nothing is off the table. Doesn't mean he's going to go. Doesn't mean that Newcastle are actively trying to sell him, but there is an awareness within the club that they can't maybe turn down an offer if it's the right one for a player that hasn't even pulled on a black and white shirt. That is a shame for the fans, especially the excitement of watching him from afar last season. What can he do in the Premier League? What can he do for Newcastle in the future? Especially, as I say, because they are searching for a right winger as well. It might sting, but these are the sorts of things that maybe have to be done if you're looking to strengthen the squad to get back into the race for that top 4 next season without harming yourself by selling the likes of Bruno or Isak. So I think Minteh's sale is possible. I said that a couple of weeks ago. I think this is one to watch. And yeah, again, let me know down in the comments whether you think this is a good move or not. For me, it'd be a shame to see him leave, especially given how exciting he looks. Unfortunately, needs must in this current situation, and it's much better to sell a player who hasn't even played for Newcastle at such a high profit level than to have to consider selling a major asset like Bruno or Isak. And we will finish with those two players as well. Both have been quoted on international duty, Isak with Sweden, Bruno with Brazil, talking about their future, and both have reiterated how happy they are and how pleased they are with life at Newcastle. And I think that really, in the case of Isak, that's a non-starter. The way he went on about being happy with his best season of his career statistically, the way he went on with being happy with the people he's playing around and the people he is around at Newcastle as well. And he said you can't underestimate that. And I said this on the True Faith podcast the other day, that I think it's really crucial to differentiate between this and other players who said they're previously happy. He has given credence to things that people often shrug off and say that they don't matter, like the surroundings, like how happy he is with the current situation. People often assume that money will talk, and the bigger sort of projects that will be put in his way, they ultimately will count for everything. And I think while you can't rule anything out, I think Newcastle's position with his contract is strong. They're looking at tying him down to a new one with better terms as well. But I just think that the comments and the strength of what he said is such that Isak isn't going anywhere this summer. I think that was quite clear for quite a while. But this only it reaffirms it. This should take away a lot of the stress in terms of his future with Arsenal circling. They've moved on by the looks of it to the likes of Victor Osimhen and Benjamin Sesko, who are more affordable options probably than Isak is this summer, given Newcastle's position, the length of his contract, the fact they're trying to tie him down, the fact they're trying to tie him down to a new one, and now his comments as well. Everything just looks a little bit more rosy for Newcastle in terms of Isak's future. Bruno, obviously, you've got to take into account his release clause, actually for the month of June. for £100 million. There are a few concerns with Manchester City still sniffing around their interest, as I've said to you before, is very genuine. But the fact that Bruno and Joe Linton were so heavily involved in the kit launch this week, as well as Isak and others, I think it's pretty clear that Newcastle have their stance with Bruno as well. And Bruno said he was happy, said he wasn't in a rush, but did admit that he doesn't know what's happening with his future because he has that release clause. That's not much of a surprise. The fact that he reiterated 2 or 3 times how much he loves Newcastle, how happy he is, and the comment again about Leon comparing his happiness there to here and Newcastle was massive. I think these aren't quotes that are just to be taken lightly. I think Newcastle should be very, very confident of keeping both. But obviously, with Bruno, they have the element of unpredictability and lack of control over whether Manchester City or anybody else targets Bruno. Pep Guardiola is a massive fan, and I do think Man City's interest will not go away. But in terms of the short-term future of Bruno, I think Newcastle can be very confident of keeping him. And as I say, it was great to see him and Joe Linton both very, very involved in the new Adidas kit launch this week. Do let me know again down in the comments whether you like the new kits, what you think of the new kits. I really like the home shirt. I really like the look of the prospective away shirt, but for me, the originals really took my eye. And yeah, I'm a huge fan of having Adidas back. I think it's massive for the club, not just financially, but in terms of their reputation, in terms of how much we all loved Adidas. I loved Adidas growing up as a fan, and it's great to have them back. But I think crucially, having Bruno front and center, given his comments, which have been taken, as you can imagine, by the national media, as to say that he isn't sure, leaving the door open, but the door is open anyway. Unfortunately, because of that release clause in his contract, I think the fact that he said he's very happy 2 or 3 times, like Isak, is a massive, massive plus. So yeah, thank you very much for joining me on this week's NUFC Monday show. Please like, share, and subscribe. As I say, more support, more videos. My Euros debrief will start later this week. I'm also going to bring out a video on the main target I think Newcastle should look for this summer, the player I think they should go for. So keep an eye out for that on about Wednesday or Thursday. Thank you very much, and I'll see you next time. Cheers.